where that is, but it's a cute little town.
Scenic Drive.
Yes, it's actually a great town if you get to go there. He also owns Aroma Time, a restaurant out there, so if anyone ever gets a chance to go over, it's a great little restaurant. He wrote a book called 50 Mistakes Business Owners Make, and he's going to tell us a little bit about it. And thank you for coming in.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Excellent. I brought my cameraman, my son. It's Justin over there. He's out of school for the year, so yeah, it's perfect. You're coming to help me today. My regular camera person, my wife, was unavailable today, so. So a little bit about me. I'm from Ellenville, like Martha said. I graduated high school there, left as soon as I possibly could, worked all over the country, worked in Europe. Was a professional chef from the very beginning. Knew at 17 years old that I wanted to cook and that I wanted to be a business person. And being a chef and being a business person are two different, totally qualifications. Restaurants, as you bankers know, are probably one of the highest fail rates in the industry. And everybody always says you don't go to the bank to get money for a restaurant because banks just don't give money to restaurants. And that's because people can be great chefs, they can be great bakers, but they have no clue how to make everything else connect. And I kind of had that knack in the beginning to be an entrepreneur at a young age. I remember being in 7th grade selling baseball card supplies just because I knew I could make 10, 15, 20 bucks a day selling stuff in 7th grade. By the time I was in 11th grade, I actually had a wholesale account with Carter Wallace. Carter Wallace sells Trojans. So I had an 11th grader with a wholesale account to a big company like that, and I was the Trojan dealer in school. So I knew at a young age that money was easy to be made and be creative, you could do it. So cooking is just the same. It's an easy way to make money for me and figured that out. So let's see, I've been open for 14 years. If you know anything about Ellenville, Ellenville used to be a bustling town in the 50s, 60s, 70s, the 80s it started going down. It's part of the Borscht Belt. Ellenville was never really known for its restaurants though, because we had the Nevele, we had Fallsview, and we had men's shops, women's shops, jewelry stores. I remember as a kid there must have been 2 jewelry stores in Ellenville, and the streets, we must have 5 or 6 bars, pubs, but no really decent restaurants. And I moved back, didn't really want to open anything in Ellenville. I was working in Westchester County as a chef at a country club, but with my DNA, I knew that I couldn't work for somebody else, that was only a way to gain experience and then move forward. And I took a chance on Ellenville in 2003. A friend of mine, who's the village manager at the time, was running partner. He goes, Marcus, you're the person to do this. You're the person to come in Ellenville and make a change. And at that point, people were afraid to park their cars in Ellenville. I heard from a lot of people that lived in Kerhonkson, which is 8 miles away. I would never even park my car and walk the streets of Ellenville. What in the world are you doing opening a upscale restaurant in Ellenville? That's like the worst place, the worst time, the worst economic environment. I mean, people said, oh, how'd you survive the crash? And I said, Ellenville started, and when I started in Ellenville, it was the worst depression ever for Ellenville. So I had to be very creative from the very, very, very beginning. It wasn't just opening my doors and watching people walk by. We had no foot traffic. We had no destinations in Ellenville. People weren't coming to Ellenville. The Nevele was on its way out. They were closing. The Fallsview was going through ownership changes. But those places have restaurants. They have dining facilities on premise. So nobody was coming to Ellenville to eat. So when I first opened, I was like, whoa. But my philosophy is there's never a bad time to open a good business. So what did I do? I tried and I tried and I tried. I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. Thus, this book is probably severely undertitled. 50 Mistakes is an underestimation of the mistakes that I've made, so I guess I can do a couple more volumes of this. And when you talk to any restaurateur, they laugh and they go, only 50? I said, well, you obviously know what's going on. And they say, oh yeah. So through trial and error, I was like, what works, what doesn't work? So first and foremost, I'm a chef. I'm a restaurateur. But before that, my job description every day is to be a marketer. I have to market my business. And I can't stand when I talk to, especially other chefs, Like, oh, I don't place ads. I don't place ads. I don't do that. And a lot of old-time classic chefs are very, very stubborn. Younger chefs are stubborn too. Most chefs are stubborn, but they're very adamant about, I don't place ads, I don't advertise, I don't do this, I don't do that. And I gotta tell you, everybody who's told me that in the last 10 years, 15 years, they don't have a restaurant anymore. They're out of business. They're so-called consultants in the industry now because they failed in their own restaurant. Now they want to do something like they think they're qualified. And they're very highly misled. Market, 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 market. A lot of this book is on the premise of being a marketing maniac. You have to go out and tell your story every single day. But it's not like 15 years ago telling your story. Telling your story happens on this every single day now, right? I've already told my story once. I've already put up a 7-minute YouTube video already this morning. Went on YouTube Live and was already talking about what my story is, what I'm doing today, what's going on, and why you want to sort of do business with me, or why you want to be interested in the content that I'm putting out. So, of course, my son is here recording. I try to record every speech I do. I try to record a lot of things because content is king. This helps convey my story. So I can literally go through this book and just, randomly pick any mistake and talk about it for about an hour or more. So the 3 things I want to focus on today, how much time do I have? How much time have you allotted for me?
30 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So the 3 things I want to talk about today are, of course, marketing, masterminding, and ego. 3 important things, and everything in this book I think is equally important. The reason why I started this book was because people saw what I was doing in Ellenville, and they kept coming to me and saying, Marcus, how do you do this? How do you do that? Why'd you do, they were very interested in all of the techniques that I was doing. They saw that I had 25,000 followers on Twitter. They saw that, I had 500 videos on YouTube. They saw all this stuff. They saw my restaurant being busy. And they're like, if you're doing it in Ellenville, we should be able to do it. We should be able to replicate this where we're at. So I created a website called 50mistakes.com, and I literally sat down on YouTube for 3 straight days and outlined my top 50 mistakes, top 50 tips for businesses. And I just got back from Baltimore. I got back late last night. I was in Baltimore for 3 days. Masterminding. I was at a masterminding group. I belong to a professional masterminding group. Does anybody else in a mastermind group here? Been part of a mastermind group? Everybody ever read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill? Great, great, great business book. Andrew Carnegie commissioned Napoleon Hill, 15, 20, somewhere back in there in the 20s, to interview highly successful people of that time and that era. And one of the biggest revelations was, Napoleon Hill, was that every successful person has a mastermind where you collaborate with your peers in and out of your industry and you share ideas. So for the last 10 years, since 2007, I lock myself in a conference room 3 times a year with literally 100 other highly successful restaurant owners from all across the country and going into Canada. And even at one point, we had somebody from Mexico in there. We had a Cancun restaurateur. And we sit down and we brainstorm with literally sort of my competition, as some people like to say. Why would you do that with your competition, Marcus? They're really not my competition because they're all across the country. And even I welcome masterminding with people on my street block in my own neighborhood. I welcome to mastermind with restaurateurs there because we can learn a lot of each other. And if we work together, it's amazing the results that we can happen. But if you mastermind with your neighbor, as in my case, I can find out what he's paying for propane. And 3 of us or 4 of us restaurants can go to the same propane provider and say, hey, we're all buying propane. We're buying 4 different companies. If we do one company, what's our group rate, right? That's a benefit of sort of collaborating locally. But on a national level where I collaborate or a regional level where I collaborate, we literally lock ourselves in. We pool our money. So it costs money to be in a good mastermind group. A lot of people I know have said, oh, I've done this mastermind group. I've done this. And I said, how much does it cost? And they're like, oh, there's no cost for it. You have no skin in the game when there's no cost. I pay about $1,000 a month to be part of a mastermind group. Does not include travel, hotel, does not include meals, does not include anything. It's just my right to surround myself with highly successful people. Yesterday's closing remarks, we had about 5 or 6 people get up and say what the group has meant to them. Long timers. I've been in the group 10 years. I've been to 30 meetings. I haven't missed 1 meeting in 10 years. There's 2 other people in there that have been in there 11 years that the first person just missed their first meeting this meeting. And we go to different cities all across the country. We just did Baltimore, we did Palm Springs in the winter, we did New Orleans last year, Charleston. So we pick fun food cities to go to and go out at night and explore and do more research and development. And the 5 or 6 people that got up, because there's a few newbies in the group. We like newbies because we get new ideas from people coming in, new influences. And a mastermind group is something where it's give and take, where you're coming into a group to talk about or teach people to give without any expectations in return. But what happens is there's highly qualified people in this room. So if you have an open mind, you're going to learn and absorb like that. One person got up and said he tripled his business after joining this mastermind group, because there's some newbies in the group that are like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can spend $1,000 a month to be part of a group and then pay for airfare, pay for meals, pay for hotel. This is an expensive thing. We only meet 3 times a year and we're paying $12,000 before we even meet. So people got up and one guy said, I tripled my business. Another donut shop in Wells, Maine goes, when I joined within the first 2 years, my revenue increased $500,000. Personally, for me, joining a mastermind group, in the first 3 months, my business went up 44% in the first 3 months. The energy and the synergy you get when you surround yourself with like-minded people, highly qualified people, is insane. It's the most thing you can do to supercharge your business and your personal life. Now, our mastermind group is based on business, but we also mix personal things next. We also have personal goals. Some people want to lose weight. Some people want to be part of, say I want to eat healthier. So they go to the person in the group that knows most about nutrition, or that knows most. If you say, I want to do email marketing, I really want to master email marketing, we'll go to the person who knows the most on email marketing. I happen to be the social media guy in the group, so everybody comes to me for all the social media advice. Marcus, how do I start a YouTube channel? How do I do this? How do I do this? When I need help with numbers, I go to the guy in Wisconsin who's the numbers guy. And the neat thing is, a lot of us talk on the phone regularly once a week. We hold each other accountable. We have accountability groups. So holding each other accountable is massively important, because it's like all of a sudden you're in a conference. We've all gone to conferences, right? We've all seen somebody very inspirational, and then we get back to our environment and we're in a pot with all these crabs, right? And we're the crab that's trying to get out of the pot and all the other crabs are pulling us back in. So it's like, how do you stay energized and charged after you get out of that kind of environment back to your normal environment with all the naysayers, with family members, with negative people at work? So we have these regular accountability calls where everybody in the accountability groups knows my goals. So they're putting pressure on me now, next week, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, like, Marcus, why haven't you accomplished this email marketing campaign you said you're going to? Why haven't you accomplished your new burger promotion? You wrote down, Marcus, that you were going to have this done by July 8th, and it's now July 9th, and where's your goods? So masterminding goes far beyond just sitting in a meeting, a formal meeting, and talking once a month. I would love to start my own mastermind in the Hudson Valley here with all different types of business. I'm sure some do exist. I'm sure if you looked, that you'd find some things. But again, the more skin you have in the game, the more value you're going to put into masterminding. The second thing I want to talk about is storytelling. How many business owners are in the room? How many business owners, entrepreneurs? So, I'm huge on storytelling. Is anybody familiar with Seth Godin? Seth Godin's written some fantastic books. He has a book that's called All Marketers Are Liars. Catchy title, and by no means is he suggesting that we lie. But stories are so interesting. Stories are what make the connection. I'm sitting here listening to the introduction, 145 years in business. Why wouldn't I want to do business with a bank, independent bank, that's been in business for 145 years? There's 11 in the country? That's amazing. That gives me a warm fuzzy. I want to come do business with you guys. I want to put my money here. For 145 years, if people put their money here, I want to do the same thing. That's important. Everywhere you go, there's stories to be told, and storytelling is so underrated. For me, my story is several different things. At 28 years old, I was on 5 different medications: high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I was severely asthmatic. I couldn't run a quarter of a mile to save my life in high school after I graduated, 28 years old. And all of a sudden, being a chef for so long, I saw how our food is so manipulated. And I question things. I'm a person that questions things. So I would wonder, like, how can a delivery truck sit at a hotel every morning, an 18-wheeler, sit there and unload 15 cases of beef tenderloin, the same exact size? How can everything in food be so uniform? How can it be so factorized? And a friend of mine who was a chef that I worked for used to make a joke. He goes, this was in the early 90s. He goes, soon, Marcus, the marketing is going to be farmer grown. I go, what do you mean farmer grown? He goes, all this stuff isn't grown by farms. It's grown by mass manufacturers. He goes, the trend will be someday you'll see farmer grown on a box. And of course, the farm to table movement is so strong right now. And this was 1993, he was telling me this. So I was like, man, you're right, our food supply. And every job I took, I gained more weight and gained more weight and gained more weight. And I was at 28 years old, my doctor said to me, he goes, you need cholesterol medication. And I said, I don't want to take it. And he goes, but you need to. And I said, no, I don't want to. And he goes, well, you have no choice. And I said, can you give me 30 days? He goes, I'll give you 30 days. And at that point, I knew what I was eating wasn't the right thing. So I wasn't really into nutrition at the time. I'd read a couple books here and there. But the most fascinating thing was when people would walk into my restaurant, the restaurant I was at in Colorado, they'd ask for these weird diets. I'm like, gluten-free? Who is this weirdo? Celiac disease. I'm like, what's going on here? Vegan. Why would anybody eat vegan? So as a chef and a business person, business mind, I said, I need to know these kind of diets. So I had the books and I would leaf through them sometimes because I didn't want to be embarrassed in the restaurant I was working. It's the last thing I wanted to be. So when my doctor said that, I said, I got this under control. I went right to the books, started reading. By page 60 of the one book, I knew what I was doing, which was 2 days later. And I went back to my doctor in 30 days. I was going off every medication at that point. My cholesterol plummeted, my blood pressure was down, my asthma was going away. Within 90 days, my asthma was gone. So when I started cooking, I go to work every day, and I was cooking food that I wasn't eating. Now, if you go to a restaurant and you're eating food that the chef isn't cooking, the food that the chef isn't eating, that should be a flag, right? You should be like, why would I go eat from somebody who doesn't eat his own food? Like if you went to the doctor's office and he's saying, here, take this vaccination for your kids, but by the way, I don't vaccinate my kids. Wouldn't you be like, well, there's a conflict of interest here, right? So I was like, my goal at that point was, okay, I can't work for anybody because I don't want to be dictated to what I have to serve, who I have to buy from, what I have to do. And I've been in country clubs before. I've been the executive chef, and they tell me, this is who you buy from. This is the relationship we have. It's a relationship because the vice president owns a meat company. So that's who I have to buy from, and that's what I have to do. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that structure. So for me, when I opened Aroma Time in 2003, it was a restaurant that I believed in, the food that I wanted to eat, the food that I wanted to share with the community, the food I wanted to share with the world was the food that I was cooking and I was eating. And people kept saying to me, Marcus, how'd you lose 40 pounds? How'd you do this? You're a runner now. How'd you do that? And I said, come to my restaurant. This is how I do it. So that was the story, how it first began, right? And then from there, my story has just kept going and going and going. So 145 years here, independent. We have all these massive conglomerate banks. When you look in my bar at my restaurant, I have no big brands. I have no big conglomerates behind the bar. When you walk into the average restaurant, there is 5 producers behind the bar. They might have 100 bottles sitting back there. There's only 5 producers. When a chef goes to buy chicken from a distributor, there's might be 20 brands of chicken. There's only 5 major processing plants. It's all massive. Well, I'm bucking that trend because I don't want massive in my restaurant. I want relationships. For me, we don't even serve Coke or Pepsi. There's so many other better products to serve than Coke or Pepsi or Jack Daniels or Johnny Walker. We all like to say we're community people, right? We're all like to say, oh yeah, community's first, this and that. My philosophy is let's buy local, but what if we can't buy something local? What do you do? What's the next best option? Buying independent. So for me, I decided years ago that Johnny Walker just didn't fit my story. Johnny Walker's owned by Diageo. When Diageo bought Johnny Walker had 700 employees in a small town in Scotland. What the first thing Diageo did? Shut the plant down. 700 people lost their jobs, and that now moves to a main facility. Rolling Rock. Remember those commercials of Latrobe? Latrobe is gone. Budweiser bought them. Rolling Rock is made in Jersey City at the Budweiser plant. Minus 200 people for unemployment, and they can do the same exact thing. So for me, my story is my passion, and my passion is very strong. And it's easy to find stories in your business. We all have stories. When I was 5 years old, I was helping my grandmother roll pasta out. That's a massive story. So when you look for storytelling, you need to be creative and you need to look at the obvious that's in front of you and let people know what's going on. Super, super important. People want to know who they're buying from. People want to know. My kids have always been part of my restaurant. They've been part of our marketing because people want to know they're buying from a real family. That's a massive story, that we're independently owned and that we're a real family and that we go on vacations and that my son plays basketball. People love to eat stuff like that up. That's a story. We all have that. If you're in the tile business, where are your tiles coming from? Who's the relationship you're buying tile? How did you get into the tile business? These are all stories that need to be told, that people are just striving, or people just are dying to hear your story. Now, of course, how do you tell your story? Like I said, tell your story like this every single day. There is no excuse whatsoever that you cannot convey something in your business. A weekly basis, bi-weekly basis. There's 3 different mediums to communicate your story, your mission, your message. Written, blogs are effective. Audio, it's easy to make a podcast. It's easy to do any kind of audio. It's easy to be a guest on radio shows and stuff like that. If you have a story, if your story is being told, like 145 years here, that's very, very newsworthy. Like it was in the Times Herald Record. And the last way is video. My personal preference is video. I love video. I've always been a video person. The good news is you don't need $100,000 in equipment now like you would have needed 20 years ago to make a professional looking production. You don't even need to call a videographer anymore. Everything is done right here on your phones. Everything can be done, edited, shot, and uploaded. Now, some people can say, well, gee, it's not perfect, Marcus, or I need to edit this and that. The new trend in communicating is documenting. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to edit. You don't need any of those fancy things. You just need to document what you're doing. That's it. People want to see the real you. They want to see your real business. They want to see you in action. That's all through documentation. That's why vlogging is very popular. It's somebody who just walks around with a camera all day and this is what I'm doing. This is how I conduct myself. This is what I do. This is what I'm eating. If you're in landscaping, show off a lawn you just did. Obviously, without revealing the person's identity and address, and you have to keep your clients private to obviously respect their privacy. But if you build rock walls, man, when you're out on a hike and you see those old broken down rock walls in the forest, take a picture, do a video, analyze that rock wall that was built 100, 150 years ago. Show your current rock walls. Show different architectural types. Keep telling your story. People are listening to your story. Advertising. Advertising is a way to tell your story as well, paid ads. But I gotta be honest with you, there's not much value in paid marketing these days. There's certain mediums, like who does phone book ads anymore? I mean, I started off placing phone book ads. That ended like year 2 because I saw there was no return on investment on a phone book ad. And with the rise of computers, the digital age, that just didn't exist much anymore. TV, how many people actually will watch a commercial when they watch a show? Nobody. You fast forward, you stop, you go do something else. You get on your phone while the commercial's on and let the commercial roll in the background. The only good value in TV marketing is the Super Bowl. People watch the ads in the Super Bowl. If you're a huge company, spend the millions. People are watching. It's a big celebration. The ads just as much as the Super Bowl. iHeartRadio's, from what I understand, a lot of people I know have success on iHeartRadio. It's undervalued. Billboards, people aren't even looking. People are looking at their phones when they're driving. They're not even looking at billboards. Although I know a couple people out west that say, hey, I've had fantastic luck with billboards. You just have to figure out where the value is based upon what you're going to get. Now, me as a marketer, I like to know my return on investment. I like to know if I place an ad, if I spend money on something, what is my actual return on investment? Where is, it's like going to gamble. If you put $1 in a slot machine and got back $2 every time, why budget a marketing budget? This common thing people say, oh, I only have $1,000 this month for marketing. Well, if you can turn that 1,000 into 5,000, why wouldn't you put another 1,000 in it to get another 5,000? But a lot of people don't understand what really works. Like for me, I know the number one promotion in the restaurant industry is birthdays. All of you go out for your birthdays to eat. You're in a good mood. Somebody's buying you drinks. Somebody's buying your dinner. I know that as a restaurateur. If I have your birthday and I send you a postcard, for every $1 I spend on a postcard to send you a birthday offer, I'm getting back $34. I want everybody's birthday and everywhere that I think would enjoy my restaurant. So, but I know that because I analyze things and I track things. I know that in 5 years, an average guest will spend $6,800 in my restaurant. Now, for me, if you can give me somebody who's going to spend $6,800 in my business, I would pay $500 for a new acquisition. It's worth it. Give me 10 of them. I'll pay $500 on a new acquisition, knowing that that's what I'm going to get over the lifetime of this guest. But here's the thing. A lot of people don't communicate. I know so many new restaurants because new restaurateurs ask me tons of questions. And the first thing I say is, where's your database? They go, what do you mean database? I said, your guest list. Oh, I don't have a guest list. I said, why aren't you collecting emails? Why aren't you? Oh, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time. It's the common thing. I don't have time to collect emails. I don't have time to do comment cards. I don't have time to do that. But yet they're asking me advice because they're not busy enough. The number one asset in your business is your database. If my restaurant burned down tomorrow and I was closed for 12 months, I would then in 6 months, 3 months, 9 months communicate to my database that I'm having a grand opening on such and such day. And this is what's happening. Your database is your number one asset. And that needs to be built before you even open the doors. I tell new restaurateurs that haven't opened yet, you should be at every street fair. You should be on YouTube. You should be giving away things for your grand opening. You should be collecting a database. One of the last restaurants that I helped open, we had over 1,000 people in the database before they even opened their doors. Guess how busy their grand opening was? 3 turns. 3 full turns. You have 1,000 people you're giving away free food to introduce them to your restaurant. They earn your database that said to you, here's my email. Here it is. Here's my contact information. Talk to me. In the restaurant, every industry is different. The restaurant industry, guests like to hear from their favorite restaurant every 22 days. That's an industry fact. So if I'm not communicating every 22 days, somebody else is going to communicate to my guests. That's the bottom line. And chances are it's going to be 10 other places that are willing to communicate to my guests. Loyalty is great, but the reality is everybody's not 100% loyal with their business. People do veer off, and it's easy for another business to bring your guests, your customers, your database into their stream. And if they're paying an expert to do that, they're going to be on top of it. So, marketing, database, storytelling. Now, here's the one thing that's really tricky. This was a big topic in our mastermind group. We actually had an author in doing a presentation, Joel Epstein. He wrote a book called The Little Book on Big Egos. And he said when he first titled the book, it was a different name. He goes, but everybody he spoke to about it, everybody always said to him, oh, that's a great book. I know who needs that book. Not themselves, though. So he was like, shoot, I've got to remarket this book. I've got to get people to buy a book that they're going to want to read instead of saying, oh, I need to buy this book for somebody else. My wife and I have practiced this for years, over 10 years. When somebody complains about your business, it's hard to hear that. And you're going to have people that complain legitimately and non-legitimately. You're going to have people that are, okay, you're not for my business. The end result is the same. I'm not open to piss people off. I'm not open to serve bad food. I haven't been there 14 years to serve bad food. So when I have a guest in front of me or sending me an email saying my food's the worst ever, the worst experience ever, this or that, I'm like, and we're all like that. We don't like to be criticized. We're all like, wow, that's my baby. That's my product. That's my service. My rule for over 10 years, if it's a digital communication, if it's an email, I wait 24 hours to respond. Because in 24 hours, I'm in a different mindset. Things mean different after a night of sleep to me, what that person's complaining about. If the person's in front of me complaining, I always think of what is the end result. The end result's to make everybody happy. I had a guy a month ago, him and his wife, two of our most popular dishes they ordered. Didn't like them. Didn't like him at all. He tells me he's a chef. I'm doing the wrong thing, right? A chef to chef, that's like, whoa. So his ego was coming out. And, and I said to him, I said, that's an extremely popular dish you ordered. I'm proud of that dish. But however, you don't have to like it at all. That's the neat thing about this. You don't have to like my dish, my food. But you know what? I want to make you happy. Because that's the end goal. What's the end goal? To make a guest happy. I'm not there to piss people off. I'm not there to serve bad food. So I went right to the end result. I'm here to make you happy. What do I need to do to make you happy? Now here's a chef that came in, had a bad experience. Him and his wife thinks the food should be something different. In 5 minutes, he's thanking me, telling me how well I took criticism, and said he'll be back. And he can't wait to come back and try the things on our menu. The end result is what you have to start with. Again, none of us are here to piss any customers off. That's not in our mission. We wouldn't be in business if that's what we went out when we woke up every day and said, who am I going to piss off today? But it happens because people's egos happen. People think they know. And honestly, we have some customers in my restaurant that we don't want them there. They shouldn't be there. And it's not that they can't afford it. It's not that they're out of place. It's that they may be annoying. It's that they may be annoying other guests while they're there. It may be that they're trying to get a lot of things for free while they're there. But I don't have many of those at all. But the thing is, now we have conversations with those guests. Candid conversations. I want to serve you better. I've noticed when you come in, you have complaints. Or you haven't found something to your liking. I want to serve you better. What do I need to serve you better? What can I do? And maybe there's nothing that I can do to serve you better. But that conversation needs to happen at some point with a repeat customer that has complaints. Now, it'd be great just to fire the customer altogether and say, you're off my database, you're off my email list, this, that. And sometimes I do that. If somebody comes in and I know, that they're going to be a problem time and time again, I just remove them out of my database. But now sometimes they'll call back and say, I didn't get my coupon this month. I didn't get my birthday offer. I didn't get my reward certificate. So, okay, I'm sorry. Let me check and see what happened to your address. That happens too. But back to handling complaints, focus on the end result first. Don't focus on, and I tell my wait staff this, I tell my team members, because they're the ones that get upset the most, because they're dealing with the guests. I can't believe that guest didn't like that. That was perfect medium rare. I'm like, but that's not your perspective. Your perspective is different than the guest's perspective. In true customer service, you can have 99% customer service, right? 99% approval rating. What happens to that 1%? That 1% who does not like your product, your service, to them, it's 100%. And it's their perspective, though. Yeah, guests are wrong. Customers are wrong. I know that. I've had many conversations. But what's the end result? To have somebody leave my restaurant happy. That's my end result. And hopefully I can do that. There's been a few times people have left unhappy. We've tried everything. Now, in my business, we have a little trick. You don't negotiate with somebody whose blood sugar's off, right? As soon as they eat, they're much more easier to negotiate with. You could tell them, I'm gonna comp your meal and hand you $100 before they eat. That's not good enough. As soon as they get food into their mouth and they eat, oh, can I buy you dessert? Oh, that'd be perfect. Thank you so much. So that's how we deal with guests who criticize, or how we deal with our egos. And it's tough. And I admit that I'm not perfect on that, because that's a tough one to do. When somebody sits there and criticizes you, something I've poured my heart and soul into, my baby. You know, you wouldn't go to a new mother, when they say, "Oh, is my kid cute?" You wouldn't be brutally honest with them, right? That's really, my business is my baby. So I want to open it up to some Q&A. If I can answer any questions and provide any more insight or value, I'd really like to do that. So,
out of the 50 mistakes, just to hone in on the book, this is like a double negative, but what's your favorite mistake, or what's the one that's, kind of resonates with you, or they're all,
there's so many mistakes that are, I was with a friend, it's just in our mastermind group, and he looks at his phone and he goes, "My kitchen manager just quit on me." He's in Baltimore, his restaurant's in Tennessee. He goes, "My kitchen manager just quit." And I said, "What's his gripe?" And he goes, "He's tired of babysitting. He's tired of babysitting the staff." Managing staff is so important. I find myself being a coach, and sometimes a babysitter, but I find myself being a coach to my staff. You don't have a winning baseball team without a coach. You don't have a losing baseball team without a coach. But you have a lot of teams and organizations without a coach. Some of them can do better than others, some of them can't. But it's a matter of coaching. Staff is the most important thing. Staff is probably the biggest single headache that any business probably has, and especially the restaurant business. And it's the work ethic, the millennial kids. It's just amazing how people walk into my business and say, "This is when I'm taking vacation." They're just starting. "This is when I'm taking vacation." I'm like, "Well, gee, my kid's graduating high school. That's kind of important to me." And, "Oh no, I'm taking vacation. I got to do this." It's like they just walk in feeling entitled. And it's like, wow, I wasn't like that when I was moving up the ranks. I was like, after graduation, I'll be to work. I can work. I graduate at 6, get my diploma, I'll be to work at 8:30. And and it's different DNAs, and different people hustle, different people don't hustle. But managing employees is really one of the keys to having a successful business, having a good team. And you have to be a babysitter, you have to be a coach. And you have to realize that, because some people don't want to realize, hey, I got to babysit, I got to coach. You are the coach. You're the manager, you're the supervisor, you're the coach. But the supervisor needs a coach. The manager needs a coach. So it all has to stem down from the top, from the CEO, from the owner, from the entrepreneur. They've got to be coaching all the way down. So, and we set it. We have our staff set goals. We do our workshop meetings with them. And what are your goals this week? What did you accomplish this week? What's your goal for next week? Write down your goals. So we want them to think outside of work, because obviously people have lives outside of work. So what do you want to accomplish in work? What do you want to accomplish out of work? So the more you accomplish out of work, the happier you're going to be. And if we can help you do it, or at least give you the self-awareness that you want to do it. So.
Just want to let people know that the bank did go there about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and Marcus and his wife put on a wonderful cupcake tasting event. They were all gluten-free, and we paired the cupcakes with different infused wines and beers. It was really great, but we were wrapping up, and he's practicing what he's preaching. You used where we were sitting to have a team building, and it was like 2 o'clock on a Saturday after just serving all of us, and you were trying to motivate and work on the people piece of your staff. So we no sooner were finished, but you were working with your team. So I highly recommend, and I know we opened as a bank a minute ago or whatever, but I would highly recommend that anybody try the experience. And by the way, it's my birthday today. So
Excellent.
I be put on your marketing database.
So,
Just saying.
so, if anybody wants to text me your physical address, mailing physical address, I will mail you a gift card from Aroma Time. All right. So I can write my number down. I can call it off right now. If you text me, I will send you a gift card as a thank you for today. So, 845